Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang. Welcome back to Solo Roll Mangging with Shadowdark. So at this point, if you've watched all these videos for Shadowdark at least, we did a level 0 gauntlet in which I tried to lead a bunch of peasants through a horrific dungeon and ultimately failed. I just kind of cut it short, but whatever. Then I did a level 1 Shadowdark adventure from the Quick Start rules, the Lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur, with a brand new set of level 1 characters that we whipped up. And that I did, I think, 3 videos for, and overall it went fairly well, although I was kind of frustrated by some elements of the adventure as written, just because I kind of overthought stuff, I guess. But still, we were pretty successful. None of my characters died. We killed the Scarlet Minotaur. We got a bunch of loot. And we leveled up to level 2. But we're going to move on, because I'd like to try... Those 2 things were both designed and written for Shadowdark. They're very, modern modules designed for a modern system. So, I'd like to try out Shadowdark with a module not written for it. And I've already done that when I DM'd. I DM'd Winter's Daughter, which is written for OSE. And I ran, some adventure from a collection called, I think, Wyvern's Call or something like that. Anyways, but this one that we're going to be running today is called Shadowbrook Manor. So we still got some shadow there. It's still shadowy, don't worry. This was written by Patrick Kennedy for Labyrinth Lord. Labyrinth Lord is it's a pretty old school OSR game. It's kind of one of the first OSR games, really, to take the first edition D&D and somewhat update it for the more modern times. So Labyrinth Lord has been around for a while. I don't know if we even have... Do we have a year here? This is 2010, 2011 copyrighted. And I don't know exactly when Labyrinth Lord hit the scene, but they're already mentioning like advanced Labyrinth Lord here and stuff. So probably, yeah, Labyrinth Lord has been around for a while. And I've never played Labyrinth Lord, but there's a lot of these kind of games in the OSR, and they're all pretty much compatible. So you can run anything with anything, and it's all good. It's all good fun. So we're going to be running this with Shadowdark, and I'll just tell you straight up that I've only glanced at this module. It's one of those things where someone recommended it for some reason, and I grabbed it, and then it goes in my big folder to read sometime. So we're gonna do this one. I don't really know what it's about. I don't know what we're gonna find in here, but that's probably for the best. It's good that I don't really know all too much. Okay. Now, I could use my level 2 characters that we'd used last time for Lost Citadel, but we're going to go ahead and make up some 4 new ones just for this. I'm not going to design them step by step. We're going to go with more randomness. And we're also going to use the extended selection of ancestries and classes. So this is from the Cursed Scroll supplements from the designer herself. And then I guess we're also including the Bard, Ranger, and Kobold, which were stretch goals for the Kickstarter. And then I guess, we could throw in the third-party stuff if why not? Why don't we really mix it up? Let's get interesting. So we got Unnatural Selection, which is a big third-party supplement that adds the Chelonian, Dragonborn, Forest Elf, Half-Troll, Shadow Elf, Tiefling, Gnome, Mycelian, Risen, Skurrid, and Slimefolk ancestries, plus Beastmaster, Grave Warden, Plague Doctor, and Shaman classes. And I do have that file, so that should be fine. We'll skip out on the Shadowduck and Shadowbark ancestries. But we'll just go with that. Okay? I don't even know what the roustabout is, so we'll skip that and go with a random one. So we can go with best fit, so it always chooses the class that best matches our stats. Mixed, it probably chooses the class that best matches your stats. Or full random, it just picks a class at random, regardless. That's probably a little dangerous. It doesn't matter too much. You know, it's all in good fun, but we'll stick with best fit. And we're just going to whip up 4, unless one of them is, like, really bad. Or just dumb, or I don't know. Let's see the first one. Alright, we got Handra, a Sylvaran Ranger. That seems pretty cool. Background is a chirurgeon. So they know anatomy, surgery, and first aid. +2 strength, +1 dex, +0 con, +3 intelligence, +3 wisdom. Oh my god, this character! This character could be anything they want! Holy shit. You went with Ranger? Interesting. Ranger is a little busted, and honestly, I'm a little surprised that it is an official class from the designer, because I thought someone said that Fighter is like exclusively the 1d8 health point class, and that's like their big thing, that they get 1d8. But I guess that's not true, because here's the Ranger, which I would have definitely pegged for a 1d6 class regardless, even if that wasn't a rule. So yeah, the Ranger here is very much in the Aragorn, the Strider vein of things. They can use longbows, long swords, short bows, short swords, spears. They can wear chainmail. They get 1d8 hit points. They have advantage on any check involving navigation or tracking, stealth, or wild animals. And they have herbalism as a special ability. It's an int check to prepare an herbal remedy, and you can pick from any of these 5. The unused remedies expire in 3 rounds. But theoretically, you know, they could make for a decent healer. I guess I can see why we went with Ranger. That good int, good strength. It sort of works. I would maybe lean towards Priest a little bit more, due to actually Warlock. They also put it 7% as well. If we switch over and look at the Warlock, it's not what you expect. It's not like 5th edition. It's much more of like melee oriented, actually. Or it can easily be. They can use long swords and maces. They can wear chainmail and shields. And they get a patron, of course. But plenty of the patrons give you more like melee-oriented stuff. Like here, the patron boon, +1 to melee attacks, or +1 to melee damage, or +2 to strength. Gain advantage on melee attacks for 3 rounds. Stuff like that. There is some stuff in here that is more spellcastery. A little bit, but I don't think... Yeah, okay, so if you pick Shun the Vile, you can learn wizard spells and cast with int. So Warlock is like the end-all, be-all kind of class. Like, no matter what your stats are, you could make something work with Warlock if you're willing to, you know, take a pact with a dark god. Yeah, I mean, there's a patron for basically every sort of concept. Okay, so we'll roll with Ranger. We'll take what we're given. I think that's fine. This character is quite solid, but I can already see they got... Oh, fuck, I broke the hit point roll. We had gotten a 3 on our 1d8, and I was like, oh, that's not great, because we were kind of a frontliner a bit. But now we got a 1. Oh, boy. 1 HP. Well, then I'll definitely bump up the dex, and we're gonna go for definitely go for a bow. But +3 intelligence. I'm just thinking, officially in Shadowdark, you know, you're meant to roll initiative at the start of like a dungeon, and then you go one by one around the table, and each person says what they do. And then once everyone has done something, you go to the next round. And then after 2 rounds, you then roll your random encounter check, or 3 rounds, or 1 round, or whatever. And so I'm just thinking of like healing, you know, like cure wounds from a priest. If everyone's just like, okay, we're gonna sit here and wait for him to heal us, and then 4 rounds go by because he just casts cure wounds over and over, that should take like 20 seconds, you know. So I don't know exactly how the rules interact with that. Obviously, when I'm DMing, it's just like, okay, you know, whatever. I don't track rounds at all as far as going around the table. So, and when we're playing solo, we don't really do that either. But it's just kind of an interesting thing. So DC 11 on an int check will heal 1 HP. Which means that we have what, like a 65% chance of making that check. To heal 1 HP. It's not spectacular. I would say solve is a pretty weak option, but you know, we can make any of these. And if we fail a roll, we just can't make that one. It's not like we lose access to herbalism for the rest of the day. So I think Phobane's good. Restorative could be extremely good in certain situations. And then curative, obviously, is like cure wounds. But instead of a DC 11 for a priest, we have to hit a 15. Yeah, okay, it's fine. So they gave us a longbow. I'm overall pretty happy with the equipment that they provided for us. I don't see too much wrong. And we rolled 40 gold, so... And thanks to our nice strength, we also get 14 gear slots. I'm pretty pleased with this arrangement. Yeah. We'll go with that. So that's Handra, our Sylvaran Ranger. We didn't really look at what Sylvaran was and what they got. They're plant people. So, botanical beings with leaves, vines, and or berries growing from their humanoid forms. And they can take 2 damage to sprout a healing berry on their body. Eating it will heal 1 HP. Completely 100% useless for our character who has 1 HP. But it is what it is. Okay, that's that character. Second character, Quinn, the Chelonian fighter. Okay, we're definitely getting some supplement ancestries. He's a forager. +2 strength, +1 dex, -1 con, -3 wisdom. Very unwise individual. Yeah, stats. Definitely not super hot. Definitely not super hot. Fighter, I think, is a fine pick, because hopefully we'll get a +2 strength. His ancestry gives him +1 to AC, so he'll be an okay frontliner depending on his HP roll, which was he rolled an 8 actually, so 7 HP total. Pretty good. We went with longsword mastery, strength, grit. I think that's all fine. And he got a class talent of choose one kind of armor. You get +1 AC from that armor. He went with shield. So his AC should actually be pretty damn solid. And he rolled 40 gold. So he got a longsword. He went with a round shield and a shield. And no armor. That seems questionable. So the round shield is basically the same as a shield. Costs 5 gold extra. And it lets you break it to negate 1 melee hit damage. Overall, I would say that's probably worth it. But I want to sell his other shield to give him leather armor. Because, yeah, obviously. Okay. And so that gives him 7 hit points, 15 armor class out the gate. Which is what I think our dwarf had with chainmail on. So, yeah, not too bad. If we can get our hands on chainmail, that will bump up to, I think, 17 AC. Which is excellent. At level 1. Yeah, I'm happy with that character. That's fine. That's Quinn. Third character. We got Walmira, a gnome thief. Background is a noble. Boy, what is the story here, huh? +3 dex, -2 strength, +1 con, +1 int, +1 charisma. And thieves once per day can target one creature to become the object of your nettlesome pranks. You can force a reroll on one attack or check. Okay, so once per day, force the DM to reroll their die. That's not bad. Definitely not bad. Doesn't have any stipulations on crits. And I probably wouldn't stipulate that they couldn't use it on a crit. Just because it's a once per day thing. And that's their thing. And if they want to wait for a crit to show up, then, you know, that's good for them. And it's not like it just makes it become a fail. It just forces a reroll. So it still could be bad. Anyways. So they got the same talent, backstab, dealing +1 dice of damage. They got an okay health roll, so 4 HP. And they went with crossbow. Now, they went with a short sword, but the problem is short sword is not a finesse weapon, so they will be using strength for that, and we don't really want that, so we're going to buy a dagger instead. It's slightly less damage, but it's just better to have in hand. And that's probably fine. This is a lawful gnome thief. Huh. 14 armor class. How did that happen? Oh, because they're absurd decks. Yeah, that's right. Very nice. Okay. I accept that character as well. It's fine. Okay, and final character. No, not another thief. There you go. Bugyak, the Goblin Plague Doctor. Occult Initiate. This is a worrisome character, to be sure. So Bugyak can't be surprised. He's got +3 intelligence, +1 dex. Everything else kind of sucks. But he's a Plague Doctor. So he can use the Sensor Flail, Darts, Needle Whip, Stiletto, and Rapier, along with leather armor. He can store a herbal elixir in his mask that he can then inhale to activate it. Once per day, he can bewitch an insect to automatically deliver an injure elixir to a target within near range via sting or bite. And obviously, he can make elixirs through intelligence. And these are the various things that he can make. if he fails a check to make an elixir, he can't make it again until he rests. They expire in 5 rounds, except for the mass confusion. So we've got Stench Ward, immune to smells and cures paralysis. Panacea ends one poison, disease, or plague. And that's on an 11 DC, so kind of better than the Ranger. A lot of this is actually very similar to the Ranger, to be honest. So obviously a bunch of it kind of replicates some wizard stuff. Some of it replicates some priest stuff. But my real concern is that it's just a bit too similar to the Ranger, which we've already accepted. So let's keep re-rolling. We want some sort of spellcaster, I think. But not that. Not the Beastmaster, not a Desert Rider. Okay, I mean, we could go with a Priest again. This isn't a very good one. But he does have +2 Strength, +2 Wiz. He's a human, which is good. He went with Holy Weapon and Cure Wounds. He got +1 to melee attacks and +2 to his Wisdom stat. He rolled 55 fucking gold. So he's also got longsword, shield, leather armor. Yeah, he's pretty decked out too. Let's go with this guy. This is fine. We might actually encounter undead in this adventure. I have no idea. Oh, he ended up with a 1 HP roll. Fuck me. That is pretty shitty. So, yeah, I guess if he goes down... Well, he only has 1 HP, so the Ranger can heal him real easily. He's got 14 AC. He's got +3 on his longsword, 1d8 damage. You know, he's not too bad in a fight as long as he doesn't get hit. So we'll see. Okay, let me organize all this then. Which takes a moment. It's very small. So, to recap then, we have a gnome thief. Who, again, is going to be very good with who's going to be a stealth archer for sure. We have the Chelonian fighter. I didn't really go over what the Chelonian was. It was like some sort of frogman or something. So there's that. We have the Silvarin Ranger, who's not really... I mean, yeah, his stats were pretty amazing, but I kind of a little regret going with the Ranger, just because their 2 combat stats, strength and dex, were not like amazing. I mean, +2 for both is pretty great, but you know, he also had +3 to int and wisdom. Like, God, write his own ticket. But yeah, we trend towards lower HP here. We got 2 characters with 1 with 4, 1 with 7. So, But AC across the board is pretty good. So, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed on all this. All right, so let's get into this. Let's read our intro. We don't really want to read any background information, I suppose, because I don't really know the plot. So maybe we'll try and discover it as we go. And let's just go with the first hook. We are exploring the dense forest covering the hill when they stumble upon the clearing containing the manor. Okay, so we stumble upon a creepy-looking manor, and we're like, there's got to be treasure in there. Let's get it. You've entered the grounds of a large estate encircled by a dark forest. A cold wind is blowing, and a light rain falls from a cloud-laden sky. To the east is an enormous white house. Grounds are roughly 200 yards in diameter, and are populated by an eerily silent horde of topiary monsters. The house, which is built of large, smooth white stones that seem to glow in the half-light, is in inexplicably pristine condition. Beautiful caryatid columns rise from the porch to support the second-story balcony overhead, while the balcony itself is enclosed by a short stone balustrade. The two windows to the right of the front door frame the soft orange glow of firelight emanating from the parlor. The rest of the windows are dark. Okay. So this is where we'd kind of want the general image of the grounds and stuff relayed to us. So here's the map of the manor and the outside. Now it says the house is to our east, which is sort of weird. Why wouldn't the house be to our north? Since this is the north, here's the front steps. Why would it ever be to the east of us? I guess we came over here, maybe. Okay, we're on this side. I guess. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, we could walk around, try and peek through the windows, see if we see any life in there. Is this place, like, occupied? It's a weird, pristine mansion in the middle of, like, the wilderness. So, there's oddities to be sure, even without metagaming or anything like that. So, I guess our group will head north, peeking through the windows a little bit from a distance. So we would walk past room number 5, specifically. But but it said that the windows are dark. So, are we here at night? I don't know if that was really explained. It says wind and rain. Oh, we are west of the house. Okay. So, a cold wind is blowing, light rain is falling, blah, blah, blah. Okay. For each 2 turns the character spent exploring the clearing on the house, there's a 1 in 6 chance of a random encounter. Okay. So, basically the same as Lost Citadel was. But that's just for outside of the house. Oh, no. Okay, so here's the table for outside the house, and then there's a table for inside the house. But all the windows are dark, so we can't even, like, look in. It's, like, weirdly dark. Or is it just there's no lights on, but you can still kind of look in and see some stuff? I don't know. I don't know what I would say as a DM in that case. Is it like you really can't see anything inside the house? Or is it more you can look in, there's no lights on, but you kind of see something, almost what looks like a woman floating? Would I say that? I don't know. You don't want to scare the players too soon. But there's a apparition floating in the library that we passed by. Then we passed by room number 11, the scriptorium. It just looks like an empty office, basically. Not a whole lot going on there. Then there's 13, which is the study. And it sounds like it's just a rather, doesn't seem to be anything in there at the moment. I mean, there is, but yeah. Then we keep going, and there's no more windows as it turns. But we do see letter B up there. A shed, a rotting, dilapidated shed, roughly 15 feet on a side, with two large barn-style doors that creak and slam in the wind. On a roll of 1 or 2 on a d6, the groundskeeper, a ghoul, will be present. Okay, well, let's roll. We rolled a 1. He is there. Now, should I roll a reaction for a ghoul? Or do I just go straight into combat? Well, we're not going to be using stats from this. We might have to for some stuff, but ideally we find the equivalent creature or a similar enough creature in the Shadowdark rulebook, and then we just go off of that. So this is the ghoul in Shadowdark. Once it loads. No, it fucking crashed. No, I don't. No! Fuck. You serious? You're gonna close every last one of my tabs? The entire thing crashed. Fuck. And then it didn't reopen it. You son of a bitch. Okay, great. Thank you. Fine, whatever. Okay, anyways, this is the ghoul in Shadowdark. It's got 11 AC, 11 HP. It attacks once per turn at +2, dealing 1d6 damage and paralyze. So it's a DC 12 con check, or you become paralyzed for 1d4 rounds. It's not super lightweight. It is only level 2, and I think the one as written here has AC of 13, because it's 19 minus the ascending AC of 6, so 13. It's got HD 2, which What is that, like 8 health or something? Well, technically, I guess you'd roll 2d8 and whatever that result would be, which averages out to like 9. Yeah, I think that averages out to 9. So slightly higher AC, slightly less HP. Usually that's not as fun for players. Usually you want lower AC, slightly higher HP, because people like hitting stuff. But, you know. And then it does 2 claws and a bite. 3 attacks, dealing 1d3 damage each, and paralysis. I think that's worse. I think that's much worse. But anyways, yeah, we're going with the Shadowdark rules because we have Shadowdark characters. It makes sense. But what I am not so sure about is ghouls, like, disposition. Do they get a reaction roll? Are they... I mean, look at the image of this guy. That guy is a predator. No doubt about it. That guy has done bad things. So... I'm tempted to just say he attacks. Because he's undead, right? He's immune to morale checks. I don't know. He seems like just... just seems bad. He seems like a bad dude. I think this is just combat, as far as I'm concerned. But I could see arguments, maybe. Yeah, I mean, here, someone was running castles in Tillion. And they did a reaction roll for a pack of ghouls fighting over a morsel. And they rolled really well, so the DM decided the ghouls wanted the party to help them choose which one of them deserved the morsel. So, yeah, it would have been very easy, I guess, to just run that as straight-up combat with a pack of ghouls. But then the party decided to just excuse themselves and not to meddle with the ghouls at this time. So, you know. Like many things in the OSR, it's all up to, you know, your determination. I think this is going to be a fight, though. I think he hears us approaching, stomping in the grass, and he bursts open the door. He looks just like this. I would show this image exactly as that to my players. This is what they see. And I guess I'd give them maybe a moment to decide if they wanted to do something. Chances are, I think someone would attack. So let's just have one of our characters attack. This is not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be a backstab. This is just like, what the fuck is that? I'm going to shoot. So let's have the ranger fire off an arrow. Yeah. So D20 roll plus 2. 16 is a hit for sure. Dealing 1d8 damage. Boom! 8 damage! Just sinking into his chest. Okay. So this thing has 3 health left. If we win the initiative roll off here, this ghoul is done for. If not, it could be bad. Could be kind of bad. It won't be bad. Don't worry, it won't be bad. All right, so our highest dex on our side is plus 3, and his dex is +1. So our roll is an 8, his roll is a 17. So Ghoul's going first. He's immune to morale checks. He'll never back down from a fight. He'll never run away. So he is, he didn't feel anything from that hit, I guess. It's just he's almost dead. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because I want obviously my fighter to take the hit. He's a tank. He's got the highest HP, the highest AC. He wants to take the hit. But I would say the ghoul probably wants to attack this ranger that just shot him. Even though the fighter might be in front. There's no attacks of opportunity, but would you as a DM, if the fighter was like, oh, I kind of want to like body block him so he can't get to the ranger, I want him, I want his attention on me, would you allow that? Even though it's not the fighter's turn, he hasn't even entered into combat really. He hasn't had a turn yet, and the ghoul is moving forward. I don't know. That's where I could see arguments for like, I've seen some people play where they don't even roll initiative. They just kind of treat combat the same way they treat the rest of the game, where it's just players are kind of talking about what they want to do. And then the DM kind of reacts to that. And the DM obviously has his things that he can do. He's got creatures, then he's going to interject and stuff like that. I don't mind that kind of a bit looser of combat, actually. Because presumably the ranger was standing behind the fighter and fired the bow. And it's like, why wouldn't the fighter be able to just kind of like impose himself between the ranger and the ghoul a little bit to try and... I mean, not necessarily that his words, his plan here, body blocking the ghoul, will result in what he wants. In this case, I would say, okay, fine, the ghoul is just kind of maddened and is just going to claw it out at anything. But obviously, more intelligent creatures can certainly circumvent anything the players are trying to accomplish. Yeah, so anyways. So, the fighter is certainly going to kind of step in and try and block the ghoul's advance and focus his attention, like sort of smack his sword against his shield. And again, it's not the fighter's turn, but this isn't a JRPG, technically we go turn by turn. It's turn-based combat, yes, but still, I think there's flexibility here because we're playing a tabletop RPG. Flexibility is the whole point. So the ghoul is going to attack the fighter. And he's going to roll d20 plus 2. He rolled a 21. It's definitely a hit. Everyone has a luck token, by the way. And actually, I could have the gnome re-roll this, but that seems a bit early. So we'll just go with it. So this is 1d6 damage, 4 damage to the fighter, and he has to roll a d20 -1 for the con check. He just barely failed, so he's actually paralyzed for 4 whole rounds. Basically until the end of combat, pretty much. The ranger could administer... I don't know if it counts as a poison or a disease. Although I guess it must be. It has to be some sort of chemical reaction, right? It's not magic. It's not electricity. So I would probably classify it... Ooh. Nah, before I say something like that, I don't know if I want to classify it as a poison. Oh, okay. So this is from the AD&D subreddit. And they say that it basically comes from Tolkien, where wraiths and wights paralyze men and hobbits with fear. So it's not a chemical reaction. That was the original intent, and then like the AD&D monster manual later on mentioned that ghouls attack with their filthy nails and biting with their fangs, causing paralysis. So basically, it's just its own unique thing. Unless you have something that says it cures paralysis, there's no other way to remove it. Dispel magic won't do it. You know, poison won't do it. So, okay. Anyways, that was his turn. So now it's our turns. Fighter can't do shit. The ranger could fire again, but let's have the priest. He could try turning undead, because this is an undead thing. It would force... So we'd have to roll the spellcasting check. Then the ghoul would have to roll a charisma check opposed by that spellcasting check. If he fails by 10 points or more... No, but this thing is not equal to or less than our level. So, basically, in this case, on a fail, it would flee from us for 5 rounds. We want to slay this horrible creature, because we don't want him coming up across us, when we're poking around later. So, our priest is just going to swing his mighty long sword. D20 plus 3. 14 is a hit. D8 damage. 4, that is it. Dead. We cut off its head. Okay. And that's it. Like there's no big fanfare, there's no XP given out for anything like that. That's just it. So the paralysis then will wear off shortly thereafter. I'm pretty certain that's the intent, and it's not 40 minutes long. Maybe it probably was in the old days, wasn't it? Lasted like 8 decades or something. No, I mean in OSE it just says 2d4 turns, which I think is basically the same meaning. Okay, so then, of course, our priest is going to try to cure the wounds that the fighter suffered. So this is d20 plus 3. We need an 11. We got it. So heals 1d6, heals 3, puts him at 6 out of 7. And then, you know what? Fuck it. The ranger will try to make a little herbal remedy, a salve. DC 12. And we get plus 3. We crit! Oh, shit! We would get a luck token. We finally crit on something. Well, I think it just, like, heals twice as much. Oh, well. Whatever. Boom. Done. And let's denote our luck tokens. Okay, so we kind of spit on the corpse of this horrible ghoul that we just slew. And we'll send in the thief to poke around in his shed. And, you know, see if there's anything in there that's useful. And she finds a filthy cot riddled with maggots. The stench in here is quite oppressive. She also finds a bag of fertilizer. As well as a shovel, a pick, a rake, and pretty much every other basic gardening implement. I could potentially see use for a pick, you say? What exactly is a pick? Do you mean a... Okay, a garden pick. So it's not like a pickaxe. I don't think it's... I think it's much smaller. It's specifically for gardening purposes. So I don't think that would be too useful. Much like the rake wouldn't be that useful. But the fighter's going to grab the shovel, because that could be useful. And the thief... No, you know, we'll give the ranger. The ranger could find some use for it. Magical grow plant food. I wonder... Now, again... If I was playing as this character, I'd be like, well, what if I eat it? You know? Like, because I am a plant, I guess. I am Groot. What if I eat the magical grow fertilizer? What would I say as a DM? There is a list here of, like, magical effects, I think. Well, there's the mishap list, which is not as fun. Here's the potion sort of... no, that's mixing potions. No, I mean, there's a billion, like, magic effects. I might even go to my list of 1,000 random effects from the bag of many tricks. I might do that. But, totally random magical effects. Here's a D1000 list right here. So let's just say I'm just gonna declare this thing has 2d4 doses. So it has 4 doses. I'm gonna eat a dose. So we'll put a 3 there. And we're gonna roll on this D1000 list. And I'm gonna keep rolling until I get something that kind of makes sense. Like here, the first one I rolled was a wall of fire encircles the caster. It doesn't really mesh that much. That could make sense. Perfect. There you go. A yellow mushroom grows out of the caster's right ear over the course of 2 rounds. It is edible, but tastes like wax. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's very minor. But it's, you know, it's something. There you go. That's what happened. Okay. Do I give an XP for finding the magical grow plant food? I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that's... It is magical. You could argue that. But I don't know if it's useful. And I don't think the players could really argue at this point that it's useful. So... and it's not... Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't even give, like, a value to it. So it's hard to say. We'll skip the XP for right now. Okay, that's it with the groundskeeper shed. I think at this point, though, we have to do a random encounter check. We rolled a 2, so we're fine. What else do we have? So we can definitely see from this spot that there is an opening in the that leads into like a courtyard or something. We can also see in the distance letter F, which is the outhouse. So we can see an outhouse in the distance. Whoa, look at that! Oh my god! Anyways. So let's cautiously. We'll send the thief. Okay, we'll chill back. We'll hang back. We'll send the thief to like kind of like pad forward along the wall, and then poke around the edge here, the corner, to look into the courtyard, see if we see any active hostiles or other ghouls or anything like that. And like I said, I honestly have no idea. I have not read any of this, so it's a surprise to you and me. So let's just have the gnome roll stealth. You know, she gets advantage on it. I don't even know if there's anything in there. There probably isn't anything that can hear her just yet. But, you know, just to keep players on their toes. Yeah, let them roll. Okay, so we got an 18. We're fine. We're very stealthy. And we creep up here, and we're looking at C and D on the list. So we see a pond. A 30-foot? Really? What is the scale of this map? 1 square is 5 feet. That is not 30 feet diameter. What are you talking about? That's 5. That's like 10-foot diameter. They couldn't mean 30 inches. And they definitely can't mean 30 feet. Unless diameter does not mean what I think it means. But I'm pretty sure diameter means from one part to the other part. Maybe they mean circumference. I don't know. But whatever. It's a little pond. The water looks brackish. It's filled with dozens of giant floating lily pads. Now, it's also home to a particularly nasty and usually hungry giant toad. Let's grab the stats real quick for a giant toad, just so we have them on hand. I do not have a giant toad listed here. Oh, I have a giant frog. Perfect. Who can tell the difference, right? It's a human-sized frog. Jesus. So this thing is big. And it's level 2. 12 AC, 10 HP. It gets 2 attacks per turn. Both at +2, dealing 1d6 damage. Oh, no. Sorry. The tongue attack does not deal damage. It just pulls things in. And then the bite deals the damage. Okay. So this thing is in there. Obviously doesn't notice us yet. Would we... How deep is this pond, though? Okay, that's way too loud. How deep is this pond? Would this thing be sticking out at all? Well, it's a toad. Do toads breathe underwater? I don't know. It doesn't think so. I don't think so. When in water, toads breathe through the skin. Moist skin allows the oxygen from the water to pass through the skin and move to the blood. Huh. Okay, yeah, they can just hang out underwater. Okay, I guess it depends. They do eventually have to come up. But it depends on how active they are. But this is frogs. Although I guess... I'm finding a lot of conflicted information. When did reading information on the internet become so difficult? I just need ChatGPT to tell me the answer. Anyways, let's assume that it's maybe like the barest hint of it is like poking above water, but it really is like it's kind of hard to tell because the water is really brackish and dark. So you would start, and there's so many lily pads around. If you got closer and rolled well when you were examining it, you might be able to spot that. Oh, that looks like a massive toad under there, actually. But from this distance, these conditions, it's raining and cloudy. Yeah, no. Okay, what else? She sees Area D. On the western wall over there. It's a cemetery. It's separated from the rest of the garden by a low black wrought iron fence with a little gate in the center. Within, clustered beneath the boughs of an ancient white oak, stand 24 headstones, some of which preside over open, freshly dug graves. They also bear the characters' names, but I wouldn't say that you could read that at this distance. That would be some very good vision. The weather and the passage of time have erased the legends from the other headstones. Grave robbers may turn up jewelry, although the smell of rotting corpses is sure to attract the attention of the wolves haunting the surrounding forest. The oak tree is home to a lonely but cautious dryad. She attempts to charm any character foolish enough to linger here alone. If she fails or is threatened, she rejoins her tree and disappears. Wow. There's a lot going on in the cemetery there. Okay. And then on the eastern side, there's what? Like, just a bench, I guess? I don't know what the stars are meant to be. Bushes or topiary, probably. Yeah, probably topiary. Okay, so I mean, as far as the thief would declare, it looks pretty clear. Except, what is Area 16? Is there even a door back here? So Area 16 is conservatory. I don't think... How is there not a back door? There's a secret door. But honestly, the thief would look over this room and just be, or this area, and be like, yeah, I mean, there's no doors going into the house here, and it looks uninviting. Like, there's no treasure back here. So, honestly, I think we would just move on. So we would go check out the outhouse, which just smells unholy. And I guarantee there's probably at least one player that has played in this adventure that has dug extensively into the outhouse shithole. to try and find some treasure. It had to have happened. We will continue moving along the house. So we see then whatever A is, which is the well. Okay, so we glance down the well. Doesn't seem to have a bottom that we can see. You know, you could, we actually don't have the light spell. So we would have to throw down a torch if we wanted to see. Oh yeah, I forgot. So we have arrows. And we used an arrow. We're going back to our usage dice. We rolled a 3, so we're fine. And we'll do the same for our crossbow bolts. We didn't use it yet, but I'm gonna write it down. Okay, so it just looks like a dark abyss down there. And if we succeed on a listen check, we can hear a strange sound. Well, of course we want to roll a listen. Our thieves... No, okay, no. It's a wisdom check, so our priest will probably... Nope, our ranger will probably... Yes. So our ranger hears the sound of clashing swords down at the bottom of this weird well. That's not inviting, I would say. Characters who fall or jump into the well fall slowly until at last they fall asleep, unless you save versus spells. If the spell save fails, they awaken in a randomly determined room of a dungeon or mythical underworld of the Labyrinth Lord's choosing or design. If the save succeeds, the character floats 100 feet to the well's dry bottom. If a character reaches the bottom in this way, the feather fall effect ceases to function for 3d6 turns. So they have to somehow get back up. 60... I mean, usually it's only 60 feet of rope, so you'll have to tie together multiple... Did anyone... Okay, we have one... We brought one set of rope, because I went with random characters. So we don't even have 100 feet of rope if someone ended up down there. We'd have to, like, go inside the house and get some, like, bed sheets. Great! Okay, so then we also see G. We're seeing a lot of stuff out here. This is a doghouse. Simple miniature house with a slanted roof and an arched 3-foot-tall opening at the front. Once home to Tazamak's best friend. Now the lair of an enterprising but not particularly aggressive boar. Okay, so it's not particularly aggressive. We'll roll a reaction roll. It kind of hears us poking at the well, and, you know, we're kind of talking amongst each other, and this is pretty close by. So the boar is going to snort and step out of the doghouse and look at us. And we're going to roll our reaction roll of 2d6. Why is that not on the quick reference? That really should be, because I mean, really, you should be rolling reaction rolls all the time. I know I haven't been doing it much, but in the last few adventures, we haven't encountered many creatures. So I know it's a 2d6 roll. I think 0 through 6 is hostile or aggressive or something like that. Oh boy. There it is. If the characters immediately interact with the creatures to influence their attitude, you can add your charisma modifier. But I think that we wouldn't, like, talk to it. If it were my sister playing, she loves every animal that they ever come across ever, regardless of what type of animal it is. So she would absolutely, like, try and befriend it and offer it food and stuff. And I don't know if I would even roll a reaction just for her sake. I'd probably just be like, yeah, it eats it, and it starts following you around and stuff. Just because she loves that kind of stuff. But for our case, we're just gonna roll straight 2d6, and we got an 11. So it is curious about us, which is very much like it just sniffs us, and it's just like looking. It just looks, I don't know, unsure. It doesn't seem to be hostile in any way or aggressive. It's not about to charge. Um, but it's also like not coming up to us and rubbing against our legs. So certainly an opportunity if we wanted to throw it some food. And yeah, let's just have oh, I know. The ranger will pluck off the mushroom that grew out of his ear, and he'll just feed that to the boar. Pat him on the hindquarters as they continue on, and that's the end for the boar. Moving on. We're doing all right. Okay, so we do see some steps leading up to a door right here, right next to the doghouse. So we could go in this way instead. I don't know. It probably has general outlines for all the doors in the house and stuff like that. Probably, maybe not. The windows. Okay, so a couple of the windows are protected by glass-like steel spells. Otherwise, the characters are free to enter the house at whatever point they choose. So you could, go through a window or something like that, or climb up onto the ceiling. Who knows what? It doesn't seem like the front doors are locked. They're just kind of magically. I mean, they don't have a. They're not. Yeah, it's not a lockpick situation. But I think maybe this side door we would declare is locked. Would we go in right away, or would we keep going around the house? I mean, outside of the ghoul, we haven't really encountered anything that was really scaring us off. I mean, there's just a boar here that seems nice. The well is a little weird. And the fact that there's a cemetery in the backyard is kind of strange. But if we go all the way around to the front, it did say that one of the windows is lit. Or is has lights on. Two windows to the right of the front door frame the soft orange glow of firelight emanating from the parlor. Okay, so again, I guess all of the windows in this place are like clouded over, you know? So none of them you can make out any real details. It's just that there's a light on in the room. There's a fire going in the room behind these windows, and that's all we can tell. So that would suggest somebody's in there. You know, you could just like burst through the window right there with your sword drawn. That's definitely the Ovum strat. But Ovum would not do well in an OSR setting. He was very much designed for like modern D&D superhero fantasy kind of stuff. Okay. Then I think, yeah, we'll go for the side door. We're going to be nice and sneaky. We're not going to go through the front entrance where we're, you know, who knows what might announce us or something like that. We'll go through the side door. So, we're going to have the thief. I'm going to say just right now, it doesn't say it, but I'm going to declare that it is locked. Not a fancy lock or anything like that. We'll say it's just a DC 12. But this is like a side entrance to the house. I feel like it should be locked. Because that would just be weird. So DC 12. Thief gets advantage on the roll. Yeah, I rolled a 19 and a 16. So our little gnome has no issue picking that lock. And then the fighter will lead the way inside. Or, yeah, I could send the thief in first to just kind of check if the coast is clear. But I think we're going in. We're just going in. So we want the fighter up front with the shield. Okay. So technically we enter into room 2, the entry hall. But we're coming in from a different direction. So we don't actually see the firelight casting shadows on the empty corridor. And we don't see the antique longswords crossed upon the wall. We would if we keep going forward. I imagine that stuff is like here or here on your left, maybe right when you come in. So all we see is this hallway. And to our immediate right, we see a door. So before I even read the room, read the section, I'm going to have the... it doesn't really matter one way or the other. We'll just have the priest listen at the door. Okay, rolled a 5. I could re-roll it, but you know, he declares that he doesn't hear anything. And this is where another player would be like, well, I want to listen in as well. And then they don't hear anything. It's like, well, I want... And that's why I think Pathfinder 2nd Edition has the DM role for you secretly. And that way you can't pull that bullshit. Because then it's just like, yeah, I mean, you don't hear anything. You don't know what you rolled. You don't know if you rolled badly. Everyone else doesn't know what you rolled. So there's no real reason of any kind, metagaming or otherwise, where you could say that you don't believe the person when they say that they didn't hear anything. I do like that idea. I just don't tend to enjoy rolling for my players. Just because I don't know. I'm not that big into dice rolling, like at a table. It just seems like a slow process, and I don't get like some innate joy out of it that some people seem to do. So I don't know. Anyways, we're going to declare that we don't hear anything. And so the fighter is just going to try the doorknob. And now we will see the specifics. Okay. It is, from the sound of it, unlocked. And he's going to poke his head in. And it's a lavatory. This room contains a large iron tub for bathing, a medium-sized chest, and a small vanity table surmounted by a mirror attached to the wall. In the tub, actually, I would probably say we can't really see anything. I think it's like midday, but it's cloudy, so it's already kind of dark outside, and this whole place is pretty dark. So definitely when we're inside the bathroom, we can't see shit. So we're going to have to light a torch at this point. And we will have, God, who's going to hold a torch? Okay, the fighter's going to hold it instead of his longsword for right now. So he's going to light this torch. And we'll turn on that torch timer. And we should probably do another random encounter check now that once we've entered the house. Okay, we're fine. Okay, so now with the torch, we see the skeleton in the tub, its left arm dangling over the rim. Nearby, in the center of a dark stain on the ground, lies a silver straight razor. The skeleton is all that remains of Tazimak's wife, Rowena. He could never bring himself to bury her. A glazed ceramic wash basin sits on the floor underneath the vanity. The chest contains towels, soaps, and a pretty tortoiseshell hairbrush. Before Tazimak turned it into a portal to the underworld, the nearby well provided water for bathing. Great. I could see someone picking up the silver straight razor. I could see someone picking up the tortoiseshell hairbrush. It doesn't give any monetary numbers for those. The Shadowdark rulebook might have something similar. Yeah, I mean, you're getting into... Yeah, I mean, maybe they'd be worth, like, 5 gold. I'd probably say, like, 5 gold each or something. There was that locket in the last adventure, which I think was just a silver locket, and that was worth 5. So, probably if they wanted to grab both of those things, I'd say it's 5 each. And I'd have to make a note for myself, because it's not written here. But not really worth XP, I don't think. Okay, continuing on. So now we have a torch lit, so now we're a little bit more concerned, because something could very well tell that we're coming in. And that's always the downside. And that is a big part of Shadowdark. And it's actually like one of the core tenets. And like here, you go to designing magic items. So one of the core things is that you should never remove the need for torches or the light spell. Magic items should not glow indefinitely or provide an unlimited way to see in the dark. And no ancestry should be allowed to see in the dark. You should always have to depend on light. Like, that is the core aspect of Shadowdark. And I can see, that's a pretty interesting way to play. Because if you play like modern D&D, it's very easy for an entire group to all have dark vision. And it's not even like, no one even brings up the idea of darkness being an issue. Or needing a torch or something. But this game is of a different breed. So yeah, you have to be always cognizant of that you are shedding light in a dark place. You're carrying torches in. How many torches do you have? What happens if a torch goes out? You're keeping track of the torch timers constantly. It's meant to be a big aspect of the experience. And so a DM running Shadowdark should always be aware of the effects, positive and negative, of having light on the group. But yes, so we continue on. We don't have much choice on that matter. We have to have a light. We continue on, and we see this branch in the hallway, and we see a couple doors next to each other right here. Looks like some smallish rooms. So we'll creep up. And we'll have the priest listen to 6A, the left door here. Alright, he definitely... If there's something in there to be heard, we're hearing it. 6A is the zombie butler's quarters. On a roll of 1 or 2 on a d6, he'll be here seated on his bed, staring into space. Okay. Alright, he is in there. He's seated on his bed, staring into space. But he's a zombie. He's not breathing. Really, he's like a statue. There's no sound coming from him. So, yeah, I would say we don't hear shit. If he was shuffling back and forth or anything, but he is seated on a bed staring into space. He is motionless. So once again, the priest, Earlmar, gives the all clear. So Quinn is gonna open the door with his torch out and poke his head in. And let's also roll for the other room, because that's the zombie maid's quarters, who's also present on a 1 or a 2 on a d6. Okay, the maid is not there, so keep that in mind. So as soon as Quinn kind of opens the door and pokes his head in, this zombie butler rises from the bed and shambles forward with his arms out. I can't imagine almost any group in the world not just shutting the door immediately. But here's... And I would say, ordinarily, that's not a terrible plan, of course. You seal yourself from the threat. It gives you time to kind of prepare and plan an action, blah, blah, blah. Here's the downside that I will present to you. Is as soon as Quinn shuts the door on this creature, the zombie knows that there is a target on the other side of the door, and thus will begin kind of slamming and bashing into the door to get at him. And that's going to cause noise. And thus, random encounter checks are going to happen. And this is definitely where I would treat it kind of like combat. I don't know if I'd quite roll initiative at this point, because it's not an active threat. But Shadowdark, you would have that rolling kind of initiative still going. But this is where I would kind of go like person by person and kind of ask what they do, and keep mentioning that like the zombie is bashing against the wooden door. It's making a very loud sound. That's kind of echoing around this very silent mansion. And so they have to decide if they want to like flee, if they want to just like ignore it and hope they don't draw anything in, or they're going to deal with the zombie quickly. And so what we're going to do, I think, is that Quinn is now going to reopen the door. And he's not going to shoulder check the door or anything like that. Not really. He doesn't want to break the door. He doesn't want to really make a lot of racket that's already happened, more than that's already happening. But he kind of just wants to... he's going to pass the torch to the ranger, because the longbow is a little useless here. Although this Sylvaran ranger that's basically Groot, I don't know. I don't know how he feels about carrying a lit torch. But we'll hand wave that for the moment. And so Quinn's going to get his longsword out and basically like turn the doorknob and then just bash the zombie forward a bit with the door. Again, not to like kill him or anything and not to break down the door, but just to push the zombie back and kind of make him stumble for a moment. If he falls over, more the better, but I would really doubt it. So we'll roll this as a strength check. He does have grit, so he gets advantage. And we'll just roll it like against the zombie's AC. I'm not even sure if I would have it do any damage. Maybe like 1 damage. But the zombie stats got AC 8, 11 HP, deals 1 attack at +2, dealing 1d6. It's immune to morale checks. And if it's reduced to 0 HP by a non-magical source, it gets a DC 15 con check to go to 1 HP instead. Alright, so let's do the strength check. We rolled a 21, so certainly more than enough to kind of cause this thing to stumble backwards. And I'll deal 1 damage to it. It was a pretty solid hit right on its face. So it's at 10 HP. Here's where we'll roll initiative. That was kind of the opener move, you would say. These are very tight quarters, though. We're in a tight hallway. We're in the doorway. There's a small little bedroom. So, definitely a little tricky, but that's why the longbow and probably the thief with the crossbow a little iffy. So, hopefully the fighter can just kind of handle this. Let's roll initiative. +3 versus a -2. So ours is a 6. His is a 17. Okay, so the zombie recovers pretty quickly from being shoved back and now has his flesh in sight. So it's going to lumber forward and try and slam into Quinn, who is bracing with his shield. He rolled a 13, which is not enough, so he kind of bounces off the shield a bit. That's it. Quinn will then return the favor with his longsword, his flashing longsword, swinging out in search of blood. 1d8 plus 1. He won't be able to kill him unless he crits. He rolled a 9, and that is enough. The zombies are easy targets. And 7 damage. Very solid slash across most of its torso. Would have felled any lesser mortal man. So 7 plus 1. So he has 3 HP left. The priest is... you know what? We're going to have the thief come in with a dagger. The thief she recognized that her crossbow wouldn't be of great use here. So she's going to sprint in with her dagger and try and just stab this thing in the head. Or the neck, or the shin, I guess. Being a gnome. Maybe she'll jump off the bed and slam her dagger into this thing's skull. So this is a +3 because it's a finesse weapon. She got a 13. It's more than enough. And damage is going to be a D4 straight up. 4 damage. It is dead. Unless it succeeds on this con check. It does have +2 con. It succeeds. So it's at 1 HP after her stab. It's kind of like wavering there. But it's still active. And it looks like it wants to devour this little gnome. So at this point, yeah, I guess I'd probably allow the priest to walk in. You know, again, it's up to the DM how cruel they want to be, how restrictive they want to be in every situation. The corridor here and stuff, it's a little tight. And we're all kind of rushing in here. This is a 10 by 10 room. It's enough for 3 people. It's definitely one of those situations where if anyone rolls a 1 on an attack roll, like, you are hitting one of your buddies. There's no question about it. But we'll let the priest have his moment and rush in. And he rolled a 14. Yeah, so he rolled a 17. He's definitely a hit. No problem. 2 damage. That is enough to kill it, but I do believe that he gets that con save again. And he succeeds. So this thing is still not dead. I could have the ranger try and bonk him on the head with the torch. But, God, if you roll a 1 in this situation, I mean, this whole room's going up in flames. It's pretty bad. Is it better, though, to just let the zombie have a turn? It's one of those things that you probably have to, like, sort of emphasize a bit, or just, like, mention a bit as a DM. Because players might not think all of the consequences of the tight quarters unless you really mention it. And then if you don't mention it and then you kind of spring that on them afterwards, they definitely could have cause to be angry. Like, oh, you didn't say anything about, you know, blah, 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 blah. And maybe a little bit of it would be common sense, but still, you know, you want your players to have fun. Usually. I don't know if that's the old school mentality or not, but I think that's the idea. So the ranger's just going to sit it out. He's just going to have the light in the back. He doesn't really want to mess around with the light too much either, being a fucking plant man. So the zombie is going to get a turn, and the zombie is going to turn on the little gnome, because that seems like a proper morsel to devour. And she did just jam a dagger into his skull. So he's going to swing. And he definitely hits. And he hits for 5 damage. The gnome is down. Just got clonked, backhanded, bounced off of the bedpost or something. Just, but Quinn will avenge. Quinn will avenge. Yep, another hit. Damage doesn't really even matter. And he fails the con save, so the head is utterly destroyed now. Okay. Before the priest even has a chance to heal, I need to roll the random encounter check for the noise that the zombie made. Okay, it's a 2, so still fine. It's a fairly lenient encounter table. I think. Okay, but now the priest is going to cast Cure Wounds on our poor gnome. Succeeded, no problem. Full health, no problem. See how non-lethal this game is? It's almost like I'm playing 5th edition. Alright, perfect. So in the room, and on the zombie, we find a gold pocket watch. Again, there's no value listed, which is kind of surprising. I see that the maid is carrying a 100 gold piece diamond ring, so it mentions a value for that. I'm just wondering if a lot of other things it just doesn't mention a value for. And I'm meant to... A gold pocket watch seems like it might be worth something. I don't know, do you have a value anywhere for a watch? Watch is a fairly common word in an RPG document. Yeah, yep. Thank you. No. Okay. Then hard to say. You know, some sort of golden thing. Here's a golden bowl worth 15. I might be somewhat generous at this point and say the gold pocket watch is a really nice one worth like 20. And I think everyone can get an XP for taking that. The thief will get it for her heroic actions. Of course, our ranger will happily hand the torch back to Quinn. We also find on the butler a skeleton key, which opens all the doors in the house except for 3. The master bedroom, Miera's room, and area 12 of the ground floor. That's pretty great. Quinn will take that. His footlocker contains his moth-eaten wardrobe. Not a whole lot of value there. Okay. Then, we will certainly... We just ran 20 minutes on the torch, so I'm going to roll another random encounter check. Still good. This time, I guess we still don't hear anything. But we're going to assume that there's another zombie in there. There isn't. We know that, but the characters don't know that. So they're going to, like, have their weapons at the ready, and they're going to bum rush in this time to avoid making more noise. But they find, of course, an empty room. And there's nothing really of value in here. The footlocker here contains mothballs and a simple female wardrobe. So a very similar room, but for a female. Okay, continuing on. We now enter this main area here, and here we can see quite a bit. So we see the hallway extending in front of us to some more rooms. On our left, we can see the entryway. And then on our right, we see the big sort of great hall. Yes. And we can basically see all this. Well, the light could be a little limited. I don't think it's pitch black in here, though. It just seems weird for this house. I mean, what house is pitch black without, like, specific, like, light blocking curtains? So I think it's dark. I think it's hard to make out details, but we can probably see, like, across the building and see, like, structures. So yeah, for the Great Hall, we can see that it's an enormous hall that's open to the floor above. And there's a massive skeleton of a dragon hanging 20 feet above the floor, appearing in flight. In the northwest corner is a 6-foot-tall golden harp. I don't know if we could quite make that out from where we are, so I wouldn't mention that just yet. The entryway, area number 2. So the firelight from area 4, casting shadows upon the walls. We do now see the pair of gorgeous antique longswords hanging on the wall. Pretty glorious. And, I mean, Quinn wants one. For sure, he's going to take it. And it says that they were once quite magical, but it's almost completely faded away. So there's not a +1. They're not +1 longswords or anything. But they do still hurt enemies that can only be harmed by magic weapons, which is pretty good. There might be one of those, or 2. I'm going to write M for magical. Okay, so that's what he's wielding now. Partly because it just looks badass. It looks like a proper, Dark Souls weapon or something. But when he goes over to grab one, he can then look into area number 4, the parlor. And there he sees a pretty big room, the fireplace on one side. Oh, he also sees this door. Oh, yeah, there's a door right here. But yes, the parlor. There's an elegant-looking sofa, a long, low table, and a pair of comfortable-looking armchairs. Against the southern wall is a 5-foot-tall, 4-foot-wide wooden cabinet. I wouldn't really say from his perspective that he could see what's inside of it. On the east wall, a fire crackles and dances behind the grate of an enormous stone fireplace. It's really, really good to read the adventure, though, because look at this line of text. Fortunately, Tazimak's magic prevents his house from catching fire. Like, okay, that's good to know, for sure. As a DM, I'm saying, that's really good to keep in mind the whole time, because the players eventually are going to try to set this place on fire. I'm glad that line is hidden in the parlor description. So, but yeah, there's an 8 hit dice fire elemental in there. That's no joke, dude. We do have stats for elementals. They come in 2 versions, technically. There's lesser ones and greater ones. The lesser ones are level 6, the greaters are level 9. So 8 hit dice is kind of in the middle there. But I'd probably just make it a lesser one. So a lesser fire elemental is going to have 15 AC, only damaged by magical sources, immune to fire, obviously. It's going to have well, its HP, I guess, would be 6d8. So, I don't know, what is that? 27 health on average. I mean, these are level 6 creatures. It's not a joke. Definitely not a joke. So the slam would be, he gets 3 slam attacks at +6, dealing 2d10 damage, or 1 inferno attack, all within near range. Have to roll a DC 15 dex check or take 3d8 damage. Yeah, not to be trifled with. But Shadowdark says that they are semi-humanoid beings of pure energy that speak rudimentary primordial. So they are somewhat intelligent. They can speak a language. And I wouldn't be shocked if one of our characters speaks primordial. Yep, our priest speaks primordial. And if they approach the fire, I probably wouldn't make it that tricky for them to find out that it is a fire elemental. And then I would probably, especially for my players that don't know anything about D&D or RPGs or anything, probably explain that what I just said, that they are semi-humanoid beings of pure energy that speak rudimentary primordial, and then leave it up to them what they want to do with that. Characters who think to search the couch cushions will discover 7 zingers. See Appendix B, new magical items for details. And 2d6 gold pieces in assorted coinage. Now, money-wise, this is a BX game, first edition game. So usually for Shadowdark, we have to divide all monetary amounts by 10. So basically, that would be 2d6 silver pieces. Which isn't that much. I mean, it's going to end up being most likely not even a gold. You could leave it as it is, I suppose, if you really wanted to make it 2d6 gold. But they also get the 7 zingers. Let's take a look at the zingers in Appendix B. These spherical mercury bullets are dangerous to manufacture and as a result quite rare. When thrown or launched from a sling or similar device, they burst into a randomly determined color and unerringly strike their target for 1d6 plus 1 points of damage, much like a magic missile. Holy shit. Is that actually the damage that magic missile did? Yeah, okay. So, in first edition D&D, it deals 1d6 plus 1 damage. And then you can conjure an additional 2 missiles for every 5 levels you have. In Bemki, is that how people say it? BMCI, BEMCI, still did 1d6 plus 1. It was the same rules, basically. AD&D, that's where it became 1d4 plus 1. But then you get an additional missile for every 2 caster levels after the first. And that's how it's been pretty much ever since. Except for 4th edition, which is... yeah, 2 damage plus your intelligence modifier. So in our case for Shadowdark, it would be just 1d4. And that would be it. So basically, it would be 7 magic missiles that anyone with a sling or a slingshot or something could use, which is not bad at all, really. I don't know what that would be worth if someone wanted to sell it, but I'd probably give an XP if someone searched the couch. Because between that and the extra little money and the fact that they thought to search the couch, yeah, that would be worth an XP. Would our group think of it? I don't know. Let's roll an Oracle with disadvantage. It's unlikely, I think. So, we need an 11 or higher on both. All right, we definitely didn't get it. So, yeah. So we kind of poke our head in there and we're looking around in the parlor. I suppose the thief, always the enterprising thief, would creep forward to look into the wooden cabinet just to see what's in there. And so that's where she would see 20 crystal decanters filled with an equal number of exotic liqueurs and cordials of various hues, 5 of which are actually potions. Now, you wouldn't mention, as a DM, that 5 of them are potions. Because they're not labeled. So I'm not really sure what you would say as a DM. I suppose you'd see 20 crystal decanters filled with liquids of various colors. So I don't know if you just say that it's a liqueur and a cordial by sight. It seems unlikely, especially because some of them are potions. And so this goes into the question of, well, how do characters determine what potions do in old school games? And yeah, often by like tasting it. Again, it depends on your DM. Might depend on the game you're running. But I've definitely seen a lot of people just like, you have to take it to an apothecary if you really think that it's a potion of some kind. They might be able to determine what it is, or you have to taste a little bit and then you might get a hint of what it might do, like a very scaled down version of the effect of the potion or poison. Which is probably what I would do. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the appeal of these kind of old style games, is you just don't know what things do as soon as you look at them or as soon as you touch them. And this goes for magic items as well. And sometimes there's downsides to that, like with cursed items or something, you can just get saddled with some bullshit. If you're not the type of person that can just roll with the kind of fun aspect of experimentation, or players find an item and they never discover what it does because they're just completely unaware that it is a magical object or something like that. In this case, like, really, you'd have to like taste test all 20 things, and players could very well do that, but would they have great reason to think that 5 of them and not the other 15 are suddenly magical potions? It's really hard to say. Especially because there's 20 of them, and I'm not sure exactly how that interacts with the gear slot system of Shadowdark. Is each one take up a gear slot? In which case, no group in the world is going to be taking these with. Maybe they'll sit here and like crash for the night and taste some of these exotic things. But generally in old school games, that sort of behavior is discouraged. So I'm conflicted about that whole thing. If I were really going to be nice, like with DMing for my family and throw them a bone, I maybe would put labels on 5 of them and not the other 15. But the labels would not be clear. They would be very vague. Like, honestly, just like the first letter of those 5 effects. So, like, extra healing, I'd just put like a label with EH on it. And then that would let them know that those 5 are different. Those 5 are special in some way. They don't really know what they do at all. It would still kind of involve the experimentation aspect, but at least they would know that those are different than the other 15 in some way. That's probably what I would do. I still am not quite sure about the gear slot issue, though. But I think each one would take up a slot. I think that's sort of how it has to work. And so when you have 5 decanters labeled, what, E, D, E, H, L, and P, you might think as a group, like, hey, maybe these are valuable. We should split these amongst us and take them with. But I don't know. I think maybe an adventurous player would taste one of them and take a sip. I don't even know if my family would think of that, so I might even mention that to them, that could be an option. Let's do it just randomly. Let's say the thief is adventurous enough and is curious enough that she's going to taste one of them. And it's going to be random. I'm going to roll basically a d5 for that list, and we'll see. Okay, it was 5. So it was the poison. Okay, so she sips a little bit of this poison. I'm going to have her roll a con save, and then we'll go from there. All right, she rolled a 15. I think then she's fine. She can tell that it's definitely not meant for consumption, to say the least. She feels a little queasy after even just a sip. Leave it at that, you know? And then, and for, in our case, we'll leave them all there. We won't fuck with them because we know that there's better treasure to be found. But, yeah, that's how I would probably handle that whole situation. Okay. I think we're going to ignore the fireplace completely. We are here to kind of get in and get out. We're not going to warm our hands by the fire. But there is this other doorway that, because we see the map, we know that it leads to a little, like, closet. But the players might not know that. So we'll have the priest listen at that doorway. I think an intelligent group, if those exist, might be able to surmise that this door right here is just to a cloakroom, but probably most people wouldn't even think of it. Most people live in the moment, you know. He crit! Completely useless crit. If he had spent his luck token, he would have gotten his luck token back, but otherwise, kind of useless. But he can confirm 100%. There is absolutely no sounds of any kind coming from that cloak. There's not even the faint sound of a zombie coming from the other side of that doorway. He developed super hearing for just a moment and confirmed. So Quinn will open the door, and they see dozens of black cloaks hanging from the pegs in this deep closet. So one is a Holocaust cloak, and the other is a cloak of alignment changing. The latter is reversible black and white. So that one is specifically visually different. The Holocaust cloak is shiny black. So I think that one also visually different. The other ones look very mundane, like cloth, you know. So here's, yeah, and I keep searching and I keep reading people's discussions about this. Because it... Hold on, we gotta roll another random encounter check. Still good. Very, very empty in this place. So here's a blog post about identifying magic items in AD&D First Edition. Potions can be sipped and you'd find out what they do. If it was bad, that happened to you. If it was good, it was just identified. That's a little bit harsher than what I did, but sure. Scrolls could be checked out by the appropriate class. If it was a non-spell scroll, the classes that could use it could figure it out. I don't think read magic was useful unless a module specifically said you needed it somewhere. Everything else had to be tried out. Once you tried it under some actual conditions, point the wand and try it on a target, use the sword, etc., it would reveal its full stats. Everyone knew what they were anyway. It was just knowing what this one was, not how they worked in the game. Oh, so he's just saying how he played it back in the day, I guess, and how they were discussing it. But the actual rules are different. So the actual rules from the Dungeon Master's Guide back in the day for miscellaneous magic items describe an item only in the most general of terms. Wood, metal, cloth, leather, etc. Allow player questions to simulate visual and tactile examination. A cloak appears as a cloth object. Only examination will reveal its form and probable nature. Likewise, do not simply blurt out the properties and powers of an item. It must be held or worn or whatever. And experiment and experience are the best determinators of magical qualities if some other means is not available. A bard, sage, commune spell, etc. Obviously quite an archaic way of playing for sure. But so that was the official rules from way back in the day, many, many years ago. What we're more interested in is how OSR treats it. Ideally, we'd find out how Shadowdark and like how does the designer of Shadowdark handle identifying magic items. So here's a thread on the Shadowdark subreddit. I like the top comment is deleted, so we have no idea. And then the OP is like, thank you. Can't say I disagree with that. Awesome. Fantastic. So the other responses are, at my table, you can figure out how an item works by spending some time handling it, sampling it, and so forth. If it's cursed, you get cursed. Otherwise, you learn what it is and does. You can spend a lot of gold to have an NPC wizard identify it safely, though. This person says, I have an NPC in the nearby town. I don't need to run my torch. This is out of game. Technically, at a table, that torch would keep running, but that's to discourage exactly what I'm doing. I have an NPC in the nearby town who has the ability to identify magic items for the party. Otherwise, they have the option to experiment with it and see if they can figure it out on their own. Or I let wizards identify items to some extent with the expenditure of time. And detect magic as a spell. So that's a tier 2 spell for a wizard. No, sorry, looking at the wrong one. Tier 1 wizard spell. You can sense the presence of magic within near range for the spell's duration. If you focus for 2 rounds, you discern its general properties. Yes. I think that pretty much covers it. That pretty much seals the deal. And to be honest, that makes detect magic far more useful than it many times can be. I I don't want to say that it's like a required spell, but I would be happy a lot of the time, I think, if a wizard in the group did have detect magic. Being able to find magical traps, being able to detect like magical creatures nearby, and yeah, being able to detect and identify magic items. Pretty fantastic. So the fact that that spell exists means that you are not meant to just know the general properties of magic items, because if you did, if you could, that would completely nullify a big part of that spell. So in this case, we wouldn't quite go with how strict it is in first edition D&D. I think in this case, if I were to DM this for my group, um, I would say the two of the cloaks definitely are different. I mean, that's obvious just looking at them. They are different cloaks. Um, would I say that they're magical cloaks, though? If there was a wizard in the party, I tend to be pretty generous. And so I might say that the wizard can just innately detect a very faint sort of aura of magic. And I know that in itself is sort of cheating away the purpose of detect magic, but I would really only say that in the case of magic items. Just because I know that the players, the group, would get upset um, either at me or at themselves for just passing up magic items. Just because, like, well, why would they think that it's an expensive, rare magical item, you know? And I understand that, like, if you were actually in this scenario, no, you very much might not recognize that it's a magic item. That's sort of the point. But in a game like this, that's meant to be a little looser, a little funner, a little faster, and has limited gear slots, um, and you're very likely to pass up a lot of stuff just because you can't carry that much. Um, Giving that slight amount of hint, I think, is probably what I would do. Um, so then they could at least, at the very least, make a bit more of an informed decision about, okay, these are some sort of magical cloaks. We have no idea what they do. We might not even want to put them on to try them. Assuming they don't have a wizard that has detect magic. There's still a lot of decisions that they would have to make regarding the cloaks, even knowing at the basic level that they are magical of some kind. That's probably how I would handle it. But I could see, there's another comment here that's just like, yeah, I just tell them what it does. I just tell them it's a magical item, and this is what it does. And that's a very new school way of running things, obviously. And his explanation of why he does that is just that because he'll forget that they even have it. He'll forget the properties of the magic item, and time will move on, and then he'll just have to like make it up. And I could understand that. So yeah, but I like a lot of that idea of like kind of encouraging experimentation. Um, Certainly it's a little bit worse when you have curses. We have not encountered that much cursed shit. I don't know if we've encountered any cursed shit, but I know that there are plenty of cursed items in these modules, these old school kind of modules. So if my players ever come across a cursed item and get afflicted with a curse, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I've seen cursed items that are just like, well, that's kind of the end of the character, if this curse continues. Um, I'm sure even in old school first edition, there's ways to remove curses somewhat easily. I don't know what. Okay, so here's Restoration Tier 3 Priest spell that can remove a curse. So you might not have a priest. They might not be Tier 3 yet, and they might not have that spell, but it probably wouldn't be that difficult to go to a priest in the world. You might have to make a journey, but that seems like a pretty easy way to get a curse removed in this game. So again, I think that's the general vibe of Shadowdark, is that it's not meant to be that punishing. It's not meant to be that old school in design in various ways. Anyways, that's where I'm going to leave it off. Well, let me grab these cloaks. So I'm going to have the priest grab the Holocaust cloak. Actually, no. No, our characters don't know what it does. So it doesn't really matter. Neither one is going to put on these cloaks. So the Cloak of Alignment change, actually, before I end. That's pretty wild. Cloak of Alignment changing functions the same way as the Helm of Alignment change. So as soon as you put it on, it instantly causes your alignment to change. Actually, this is funny. This is a cursed item. That's right. I forgot. It doesn't mention it here, of course, but the helm is a cursed item. So you put it on. The helm, the alignment is determined at random. Here it says that it's reversible, black and white. So I don't know if you would rule that if you're wearing it with the black on the outside, you become evil. If you're wearing it on the white outside, you become good. But that's pretty binary, and the helm is meant to be random, utterly random, because there's more than just two alignments. So it probably is random. I honestly, if I was going to run this for my family, they wouldn't really roleplay it well enough anyways for that to be of any consequence. So I'd probably try and find some other cloak. Yeah, ideally some other cursed cloak rather than just like a cloak of elven kind. So here's the Cloak of the Bat. So while you're wearing it, you can fly a near distance as your movement while in a shadowy area. But the curse is every time you use the cloak to fly, roll a d20. On a result of 1, you and your gear turn into a small bat for 3 rounds. It's pretty minor. That's pretty minor. I think that's more of a benefit. It'd probably be pretty easy to find a cursed cloak online that would be fairly bad, but not like... Yeah, the alignment thing, again, my players just wouldn't really do anything with that. And I guess if it was a priest, he would lose access to his spells, but then my player would just be like, well, I'm done. Give me a new character. So I don't know. You want something a little bit less than that. That's just more... I don't know. Curses are usually kind of a bummer. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. For our purposes, we'll just leave it as a Cloak of Alignment change. But we're not going to be putting on either of them. Okay, but we're going to leave it off here. So we have explored the outside. We looked in on the garden in the back. And we've gone through now like 6 of the rooms, basically. So, yeah. So that's like a third of the first floor. And then the entirety of the second floor. And also there's a basement and the attic. So pretty extensive place, especially because we keep stopping to like discuss rules and rulings and things. So yeah, slow process, but we're doing well. We're all here. We're all at full health. We've found a little bit of treasure. We've killed some things. It's going good. It's going good. But my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging with Shadowdark and Shadowbrook Manor. I'll see you fine folks in the next part.